Not going to college was the best decision I ever made. In fact, I think it is one of the biggest reasons that I am where I am today. But I should probably back up and give you a bit of context. I was a terrible student. I really was. I got okay grades. I never really got into any serious trouble, but still, I was a pretty bad student. I didn't care to be there, and I made no effort to try to hide that sentiment. To me, getting an extra 15 minutes of sleep was far more important than being punctual, and if I'm being honest, I still stand by that today. In fact, 99% of the trouble that I did get into was simply because I was late for first period pretty much every day from about 4th grade until I graduated high school. Once I finally did show up, I would often promptly fall back asleep, and it got to the point where one of my teachers in high school actually assigned another kid with the responsibility of poking me awake in case the principal walked by so that he didn't get in trouble for letting me sleep. To be fair, he didn't really let me sleep, he kind of just gave up on me, but yeah, that's where we were at. I figured out a way to game the system that would allow me to maintain good enough grades to fly under the radar and not get into trouble, but allowed me to put in as little effort as possible, and good goddamn did it work. I took no notes, I handed in no homework, and I phoned it in at basically every opportunity. But even still, I was able to maintain about a 75% average overall, and that was more than good enough for me. I never really saw the point in overexerting myself because I decided early on that I had no interest in going to university or college, which made high school grades completely irrelevant. There was really only one thing I ever cared to do, and post-secondary education was not a requirement. I wanted to be a musician, and I cannot understate how many fights this created in my household growing up. How many screaming matches, how many tantrums, how many crying fits. It was rough. I don't want to get too much into it, but I'll say it was rough. My entire life plan was to start a band, get in a van, and just start touring around playing hole-in-the-wall bars wherever. It was the only thing I ever cared about. It was the only thing I ever wanted to do. It was the only thing that I ever felt lit a fire inside of me, and in a lot of ways, it still kind of does. I'm not totally over it, to be totally honest. But to my family, they all thought I had my head in the clouds, that I was completely delusional, that I had so much potential and that I was wasting it. When I graduated high school at 17, my mom gave me an ultimatum. She basically said that I could either go to university and get an education, or I'd have to get a job and start paying rent at home. And I chose the latter. So I got a job. Actually, I got a few jobs. First, I worked at a furniture store and I totally hated it, so I quit after like a month and started working at a juice place, and somehow that was even worse, so I quit again after a month.
Have you ever woken up 5 days a week to go to a job you hate?
I have.
Me too!
I worked at a music store, I worked at a number of different places between the ages of 16 and 22, but they all had a few things in common. First of all, the pay was pitiful. It was always minimum wage, but somehow they expected maximum effort. And the hours were terrible, working closing shifts, followed by opening shifts, followed by closing shifts, and more opening shifts. I'd work every evening, every weekend. I had no paid time off, no medical benefits, no sick pay, no autonomy. If I worked too slowly, I'd be reprimanded. But then if I worked too quickly, I would just be given everybody else's work to do as well, of course, at no extra pay. I worked for big corporations, where I was nothing more than a faceless, replaceable drone enslaved to serve the shareholders. And I also worked for small, privately owned businesses, where I was given the whole, we're a big family here bullshit, which basically just meant they were going to completely disregard safety and labor laws, and there was nobody you could complain to and nothing you could do about it. I was always a good employee. I showed up on time every day, I worked really hard, and I put an unreasonable amount of pressure on myself compared to the amount of compensation I was getting.
If you can tell me why I shouldn't fire you without using the letter E, you can keep your job.
Needless to say, I was miserable working at all of these places. I've always been good with money, and so after paying rent to my mom and putting gas in my car, I was able to save the vast majority of my income, so I was seeing my bank account increasing, and that was exciting to me, but it didn't seem at all proportionate to the amount of hours and effort I was putting in. I'd often work a 1 to 9 p.m. shift, or even a 2 to 10, or even sometimes a 3 to 11 p.m. shift, and then have to go home, eat a super late dinner, shower, go to bed, and get up to work a 9 to 5 or a 10 to 6 the next day, and rinse and repeat. I was chronically sleep deprived, and I was depressed as hell. I kept telling myself there had to be a better way, there had to be more to life, because if there wasn't, what was even the point? And for sure, having a college degree could have given me a better job. It could have given me one with better pay and better hours, and maybe, even maybe, a little bit of mental stimulation. Can you imagine that? But even for more money, the idea of spending 9 to 5 sitting behind a computer, sitting in an office or in a cubicle, didn't seem any more appealing to me than spending 1 to 9 under fluorescent retail lights. No matter which way I looked at it, I was miserable. Realistically, I probably should have been in therapy at that time, and yes, this video is sponsored by BetterHelp, but if anything I just mentioned at all resonates with you, the feelings of depression, despair, hopelessness, frustration, self-doubt, I can't stress enough how much therapy can help. And thanks to BetterHelp, therapy is now more affordable and accessible than it's ever been. BetterHelp connects you with a licensed therapist who will listen and can help guide you through the things that are holding you back most in life. Because it's fully online, BetterHelp can match you with the best therapist for your needs regardless of your location, and you can schedule your sessions at a time that's convenient for you. To get started, all you have to do is click the link below, fill out a brief questionnaire, and BetterHelp will custom match you to one of over 30,000 licensed therapists in their network who can help you with whatever you're going through. You can do your sessions from the comfort of your own home and talk to your therapist over the phone or video call or chat, whatever works best for you. And if for any reason you don't click with your therapist and they're not a good match for you, you can switch to a new one at any time at no extra cost and without any awkwardness at all. To get 10% off your first month, head over to betterhelp.com/accordingtonicole or click the link in the description box down below. Thanks again to BetterHelp for sponsoring this video. A couple years ago, I made an entire video detailing my experiences working at the last job I ever had. If you haven't seen it yet, I will link to it up in the cards and I'll put the link down below as well. But the TLDR is that I wound up getting fired for the first time in my entire life, and I'm pretty sure that it was because I refused to work 6 to 7 days a week for them. And it felt terrible at the time, but retrospectively, getting fired was probably the best thing that ever happened to me. It was an absolute blessing. But after that experience, I was so incredibly burnt out. I had spent the last 5 years working full-time without taking any time off. I had jumped from one job to the next without any buffer room, and I basically just felt battered, like in every way. I felt battered physically and emotionally and mentally. And so for the first time ever, I decided not to look for another job. I just didn't have any belief that it was going to be better than what I'd already dealt with, and I couldn't hack it any longer. But throughout this entire time, I had been doing a lot of other things on the side. I've been keeping busy in other ways. I've talked very openly here before about how I buy and sell things online and make a little bit of money doing that, and that's something that I still do to some extent today just because I find it to be really fun. I enjoy it. But while working all those other jobs, I also took it upon myself to learn a few other marketable skills at the same time. I've said it before and I will say it again. I think that everybody has at least one skill that they can offer that is worth a minimum of $50 an hour, if not significantly more. And anyone who doesn't have one of those skills can easily learn one. I've made an entire video going over 25 different skills you can have, different jobs you can do that will earn you that type of money, which again, I will link to up top and down below. My point is that there are a ton of both skilled and unskilled trades out there. There are a ton of professions that you can either self-learn or learn by working under a mentor, but without needing a degree. There are a ton of professions you can do online certifications for, and there's also just a ton of jobs that basically anybody can do, but that a lot of people prefer to hire out for. I have a guy that comes to my house and changes my winter tires over for me on my driveway. He does it in the winter and then comes back in the spring to switch them over again. He charges me $40 each time. It takes him about 25 minutes, and this guy is booked solid, usually more than a month in advance. There's a 13-year-old kid in my neighborhood who in the wintertime goes door to door pushing a snowblower. It takes him about 20 minutes to clear a driveway, and he charges $25 for it. Shout out to Henry, this little ginger kid, okay? The last time that he was here, he handed me a home-printed brochure to let me know that during summer break, he also does weed pulling and grass cutting and gardening, and you know what? Good for him, this kid is making money. Hell, I get 3 to 4 emails a day from people overseas offering to edit my YouTube videos for me, and they charge between $50 and $100 an hour for their time. None of these people have degrees. And here's the thing, with a few exceptions, most jobs are never gonna pay you anywhere near as much as you could be making by working for yourself. $50 an hour over a 40-hour week is $104,000 a year gross. If you're currently working a job where you're making less than $100K a year, you are underselling yourself, you're undervaluing yourself, because you could be making so much more money by either working for yourself, or you could be making the same money that you're currently making by working a lot fewer hours. And I obviously understand that not everybody can be self-employed, because there are millions of businesses across the world that require multiple employees in order to be able to function and operate. Though I would argue that employees should get part ownership of the companies that they work for. We're not going to go down that rabbit hole today, that's a discussion for another time. I'm also keenly aware that not everybody wants to be self-employed. I get it, there are plenty of downsides to it as well. You get no paid time off, you get no sick pay, you get no benefits. There are a lot of responsibilities which fall on your shoulders which may not always be the most enjoyable, and it can be really stressful. But do you know what else is really stressful? Working 40 hours a week, taking orders from someone else, and still not being able to pay your bills. If you currently work a job that you enjoy, and you feel like you're fairly compensated, and you have good work-life balance, and you're content with your life, you probably don't need to be watching this video. I'm certainly not trying to convince you to fix something that isn't broken. But if, like the majority of people, you feel overworked and underpaid and taken advantage of, and like no matter what you do, you just can't get ahead in life, well then how does that Einstein quote go? Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. Maybe it's time to try something different. And while you might be asking, if it's that simple, why isn't everyone doing it? And the answer is that everyone is doing it, or at least a lot of people are. Often the only thing that separates those who do from those who don't is self-confidence, the belief that you can, the drive and the ambition to say, you know what, fuck it, let's go, let's do it. The discipline to keep pushing even when it feels slow at first, and believe me, it will, so don't do anything dumb, okay? Like don't just YOLO it and rage quit your job to go full-time into building IKEA furniture. Like get some customers first, build up a bit of a name for yourself in your community, network, advertise. But realistically, you only actually need a small handful of clients to get started. And if you really go above and beyond for those people, not only are they going to call you back, but they're going to tell everybody about you. They're going to refer you to their friends and their family and their neighbors. And those people are going to refer you to their friends and their family and their neighbors. Worst case scenario, you wind up making an extra $3 or $4 or even $500 a month. And how would that money change your life right now? Just think about it. Best case scenario is eventually you get busy enough that you don't even need a day job, and now you can set your own rules, you can set your own rate, you can set your own hours, you can take control of your life.
I said fuck you and your eyebrows!
I talked about this before in my video where I revealed my YouTube income, but I wholeheartedly believe that anybody can accomplish anything if they are just patient and determined enough. If you want to start a business, cool, do it. Start today. If you get one client who likes you, one client who finds value in the product or service that you're offering, that one person is not going to be unique. There's going to be at least 10, and then at least 100 or 1,000. You just have to keep on swimming until they have the time to find you, and then they'll tell all their friends about you. Like I've said before, it's exactly the same if you want to start a YouTube channel. You'll start your channel, you'll pour hundreds of hours into it, and you'll get like 1 subscriber. And most people quit at that point because they realize that the amount of effort they're putting in is not giving them any payoff. But that's why they don't succeed. It's not because they couldn't, it's just because they quit before they had a chance to. It is mathematically impossible for there to only be one person in the world who likes the content that you're making or who finds value in the business that you're building. That one person is not unique. There's like almost 8 billion people on this planet. What are the chances that that's the only person in the world who finds value in you? It's impossible, right? If there's one, there's going to be 100. And if there's 100, again, impossible that it's only 100. There's going to be 1,000 or 10,000 or 100,000. You just have to give them the opportunity to find you. And if you quit before they have that chance, that's your fault, nobody else's. Success is not a possibility. It's a definite. You just have to keep on working until it comes. Keep making videos, keep changing tires, keep writing songs, keep cleaning houses, keep doing whatever it is you want to be doing. You just have to give it time to grow. Have you ever seen a huge tree grow from a single seed? It takes forever, it takes years, but it happens. I know that I'm deliberately vague about my day job here, and I know that frustrates some of you, but it's only for the reason of protecting my privacy and maintaining my freedom of speech and not feeling like I have to stifle my opinions just to stay professional. But what I can say with full honesty is that the process I just described is exactly how I started and grew my business. I first started working on it while I was employed somewhere else, and initially I only had a few clients, certainly nowhere near enough to support myself. But one of those first clients that I had was a business owner themselves, and they told all of their clients about me. And one of those clients was a teacher, and they told all of the other teachers that they worked with about me. And all of those people, they told their friends and their family and their colleagues and their neighbors, and after a few years, I had a full-time business on my hands. And as for this YouTube channel, it took me nearly 2 years, over 80 videos, and thousands of hours of work to even hit 1,000 subscribers. But now look. Compound growth extends far past just the stock market. The point that I'm trying to make is I think that all of us have a lot more control over our lives than we're led to believe. We all have something of value to offer the world, and we all have the power to change our circumstances if we're unhappy. The only thing holding you back is you, which, like I said before, therapy. The unfortunate truth is that the labor market is screwed. There's never been a point in history where wages and salaries have been so far removed from the cost of living. Not so fun fact, but did you know that in that regard we're actually worse off today than they were during the Great Depression? Like the average cost of housing as a multiple of the average income here in North America is more than double of what it was in 1930. And that means that playing by the rules, waking up every morning, going to work, working hard, hoping for a raise, waiting for things to get better, it's a futile game. You'll continue to work and you'll make your boss richer, but you'll never see the fruits of your labor unless you plant your own garden. Pursuing self-employment has given me a level of control over my life that I could have only dreamed about 15 years ago when I was like an angsty, emo, punk rock kid sitting in my childhood bedroom writing songs about running away. Oh my god, that's embarrassing. Why am I even admitting that? Today, I decide what hours I want to work. I decide what jobs I do and don't want to take on. I decide what my time is worth, and I raise my rates as needed to keep up with my living expenses. I've built a life for myself that allows me to prioritize the things that I actually care most about and then just fit work in between. I wake up every day without an alarm clock. I can go to concerts. I can take Levi to his vet appointments. I can take my mom to her doctor's appointments. I don't need anybody's permission, and I can just fit my work in around all of that. I can choose to start and end my work days earlier during the winter months to avoid having to drive when the roads get bad at night, but I can also choose to start and end my work days later in the summer months when I want to have time to take Levi out for a nice walk in the sun before I leave for the day. Self-employment is a ticket to freedom, financial freedom, physical freedom, and emotional freedom. And I don't say any of this to boast, but to motivate you. I'm far from rich in a monetary sense, but I've built a rich life for myself, and you can have what I have or even more. Anyone can. I'm not special. But that's my whole point, is I don't think anyone's special. So maybe it's delusional, but when I see somebody doing something badass, I think, well, if they can do it, why can't I? I'm getting mine. You go get yours. If you enjoyed this video at all, please go ahead and hit that like button. If there is a business or a hobby or a side hustle or a passion project you've been working on and you've been wanting to work on it more and take it to the next level, Leave me a comment down below and let me know what that is. Make that your first concrete step to not just it being a dream, but it being a reality and you putting it on paper that you're going to do it. Please also subscribe to this channel if you haven't done so yet. You can follow me on Instagram. You can find me over on Patreon. I will put links to everything in the description box down below. Other than that, thank you guys so much as always for watching. Take care, and I will see you next time.